All right, today we're going to be talking about reviewing all methods of factoring. So, for your factor review, you need to look at it. If you have two terms, you want to look for difference of two squares. If it works, then great. Sometimes you may not have that, but difference of two squares is on page 2 of your notes. So if you were to look back there, you'll see that you'll have an x plus a, and then x minus a. And then just remember, if this were x squared plus a squared. So that's just an example from there. But remember, the biggest thing with this is that you need one plus sign and one minus sign. All right. Next up is trinomials. So for trinomials, that is on, if you have three terms, you're going to do trinomials. That's from pages 2 to 4. So that is where you want to first see if you have two numbers that multiply for AC and add up to B. So that could either be your big X that we talked about, or you can just factor the numbers from there. Then solve by grouping. All right. If you have four terms, solve by grouping. And again, that's on page 2. So let's go ahead and I'll do some from each of the different rows. So while you're looking here, and I'll do this in black. Okay, here we go. So let's look. I've got two terms. So I have 1, 2. So I'm going to look here. Can we do difference of squares? No for difference of squares. Because these are not, that's not a perfect square, that's not a perfect square. So really, the only thing we can do is just factor. Oops, let me write that. We can only, oh, what's going on there? All right, so let's look here. In this case, we've got an x here and an x here. So we're going to factor that out, and then everything else stays in the parentheses. All right, so that's that one. What you're going to do is you're going to finish these two. And then now let's come down here with the trinomials. So it's got three terms. I've got 1, 2, 3. So since it's set up this way with your x squared x and then a c, so your ABC, let's go ahead and let's first, is there a GCF? Well, that would be 2. So I'm going to factor 2 out of everything. All right, now that you've got that, now let's look at AC. It's -2. And then B is -12. All right, so now we need to think, what can we split this into to where it multiplies to give you -2, but you add it to get -12? Well, you can't do it. So your final answer is just 2x squared minus 12x minus 1. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's do one here. You're going to go ahead, you're going to finish those. And then let's do number 7. for number 7. We've got 2 terms for number 7. And then let's look, can you do, is there a GCF? Nope, no GCF. You can do difference of squares. So if you were to look at this, x to the 4th, well, that's x squared and x squared. And then here, you would take -1, and you're going to make that +1 and -1. And then remember, when you factor this, you can actually do more. So look here, this one, you can't do any more, so we're going to leave that as x plus 1. But now, let's look at this one. We've got another difference of squares. So here, you can't do difference of squares. That's an S because of the plus. So we're done here. But here, since this is minus, now we can use this for this guy. So let's go ahead and let's factor this some more. So here we have x plus 1 and then x minus 1. So this factors to that and to that. So now that you've got all that together, your final answer is x plus 1. Oops, I forgot my squared. Sorry. And then you have x plus 1, x minus 1. And that is your final answer. All right. Let's see, let's do one with 4 terms. No, actually we'll do one more 3 because here we couldn't do that. So let's do this one. For number 10, let's look. Let's see, is there a GCF? Yep, we got one of 5. So I'm going to do either AC, and I'll just do this. So A times C is I almost forgot to factor all that out. Okay, now let's start again. Okay, so now let's go ahead. We factor that out. So now let's go ahead and let's do A times C, which we said is 1 times 4. But then we also have positive 4 here. So you've got your different things. So 4 here is from here times here. And then now you want to figure out what can I break this into to where you get both. So in this case, I can actually break it into 2 and 2. So I'm going to break this guy into 2x, and then here to 2x, and then bring the rest down. All right, now let's start to group. And I've got x squared plus 2x, and you could have combined this all in the last step. I'm just bringing it all out here now. All right, so now let's start to factor. So I've got an x that can come out here, and I'm left with x plus 2. Don't forget you have that 5. And then here, I've got 2. All right, so now let's go ahead and put this 5. And I've got x plus 2. And then since those are both x plus 2, I can put those here. So you could have this as your answer, or you may see 5. Since you have 2 sets of x plus 2, you might see it this way also. Either way is correct. All right, so again, you're going to finish all of these, and then let's look at that. So this is just practice on factoring. And then your grouping, we kind of did the grouping within here. So remember, if it's 2 terms, look for difference in squares. Sometimes you can just factor out a greatest common factor. If it's a trinomial, you're going to do AC and B, and then group. And if it's 4 terms, you're only doing AC and B, and then group. All right, so go ahead, try those other ones, and that's how you review different methods of factoring.